Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order soundtrack. It is decent. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks added to my playlist. 12 out of 44, so about a fourth here. This soundtrack is good in the context of the game, but pretty boring outside of that. There are a few unique tracks that don't rely on previous Star Wars music, but for the most part the songs here are all inspired by or directly lifted from the movies. The soundtrack definitely does what a video game soundtrack is supposed to do, which is not be noticed, but still provides atmosphere for the game. Unfortunately, without the actual game, the sound is not particularly interesting on its own, so this album is just alright. The movie music is good, but it's not super interesting without the context of the movie, and it's pretty uncreative. Overall, the flow is fine. There are definitely a couple of tracks here that are marginally more interesting, so that's good. As you can see, my choices are kind of scattered around the album. They do go every once in a while they'll go a couple of songs without something really good, but usually no more than 5 or 6, so that's pretty good. So in general, I would say a well-done soundtrack, even if it is actually pretty boring listening to it on its own. There were obviously no singles, and my favorite track here is definitely Marin, which plays after you get Marin as a crew member, and is a pretty great track, relatively optimistic sounding, but still not super happy. Definitely my favorite track here. I decided to rank this one based on other Star Wars albums / soundtracks, which I haven't really ever officially listened to, so this is the only one in the rankings. However, I do have my big ranking of video game soundtracks, in which this one ranks last out of the 13 here. Most of the other video game soundtracks I've listened to have been better because they're a lot more original. The Fallen Order soundtrack is still good, but it pulls a lot from the movies, so it doesn't stand out in the same way that pretty much all the other soundtracks do. Even the lowest ranked Half-Life soundtracks are a lot more interesting to listen to since they sound a lot more unique. Additionally, this album doesn't take my top spot from 2020. That goes to The Strokes' The New Abnormal, which is a traditional album, and definitely a lot better than the Fallen Order soundtrack. So, yeah, that definitely takes it. Next up will be Magdalena Bay's 2021 album, Mercurial World. I've already been exposed to their newest 2024 album, Imaginal Disc, which was a big hit and I did like, so I figured I'd go through their whole discography, which they have 2 albums. So the Imaginal Disc review will obviously be after their first album, so stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.